Let's get started here. And thank you so much for joining. We've got a great session today. I'll do bigger intros for Nate and Nancy here in a second, but thanks for joining the Level Up series from 6th Sense, and we'll kind of get going right away. Today's session is about ABM's value to sales. So we'll talk a little bit more. This is the third part of a multi-part series, but the focus today is what is the value ABM can drive ultimately to sales. And so as mentioned, this is a multi series that we're doing. So the next one coming up, you'll see we actually have them locked in, and this is for the rest of the calendar year as well. So mark your calendars, and hopefully you get a lot of value out of today's session. And so want to do a quick introduction so you can meet the folks who are here leading the session today. I'll do a quick introduction, and I'll pass it to Nancy and Nate to introduce themselves. But I'm Mac Kahn. I'm the VP of Commercial Sales at 6th Sense. I've been with 6th Sense almost 7 years, so have really seen like the end-to-end evolution of where we kind of started with ABM to where we are today. And I run our commercial group, and that is, we sell into kind of the smaller companies, 0 to 500. And on a personal front, I got 3 kids under 7. So if you see one run through today, I apologize in advance. But let me pass the mic over to Nancy to do a quick introduction.
Thanks, Mac. Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Noretto. I'm the Director of Marketing Operations for QAD. QAD, we're a software company. We manufacture ERP and supply chain solutions for the manufacturing industry. We're installed in more than 100 countries worldwide, been around since the 70s, and I've been with QAD for almost 6 years now. We have 6th Sense, and we're integrated with Salesforce and Marketo and Outreach and Drift and LinkedIn and all the things. And I'm excited here to talk to y'all today a little bit more about what we do and how we work with 6th Sense.
Awesome. Thanks, Nancy. Nate?
Yeah, and I'm Nate. I'm the demand marketing manager at Service Express. So we're a global service organization, and we provide strategic end-to-end infrastructure and data center solutions on the global level. And I've been here for 6 years, and we've integrated 6th Sense with all the technologies that Nancy had said, and just about everything in our marketing mix.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that, and we'll dive in here soon, but want to give a quick, just for the folks who don't know much about 6th Sense, a quick overview of 6th Sense and ultimately our founding. And, we were founded over a decade ago to answer what seems like a very straightforward question. Ultimately it is, wouldn't life as a sales or a marketer be a lot easier if we simply knew who was looking to buy our product? While a straightforward question, I think everyone can empathize. It's a very difficult challenge and a very difficult question to answer. And so what 6th Sense is here to do is ultimately revolutionize revenue creation. And there's a couple different facets of how we do it. So helping you figure out like which accounts in organizations should we be selling to? Who are the best fit accounts? How do we kind of structure the segmentation strategy, the audiences around it? So that's kind of the starting point. But then the key element on top of that is like, when are they in market for your solutions? We know today, at any point in time, it's between 5 to 10% of your total addressable market is actually in market today. So figuring out when they're in market to buy, and then the rest of the audience and the rest of the TAM, where are they in their buyer's journey? So you can map really the messaging, the content, the outreach strategy accordingly. So you're hyper efficient. The next piece is like, okay, it's great to know the organizations you need to sell to, but who? So who on the buying team do we need to engage with? Who do we need to contact next? The next piece is how. This is a challenge in today's world. We're getting blasted with more and more email, but like, how do you break through the noise and make sure that you're meeting those individuals in the channel that they care about most? Then lastly, especially with generative AI at the forefront, like what do we say? Like what can you say that's going to be relevant and help you break through the noise? So that's a little bit about 6th Sense. And now let's get into the meat and potatoes, as I call it, of the presentation today. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's jump in. And we're going to lead a roundtable today. We've got a couple questions that I think most folks would be interested to hear how Nancy and Nate have addressed. And maybe Nancy, I'll pass the first one to you. Tell us in the audience a little bit about like when and why you brought 6th Sense into your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So QAD, we first began our relationship with Sixth Sense back in 2018. Sixth Sense was still a startup. It was pretty early on, and we knew we needed to move into the area of ABM. We wanted to do more to de-anonymize the website. And ABM was kind of new at the time. We were kind of on the forefront. We knew we wanted to move that direction, and we decided to stick a toe in, and ended up jumping in with both feet. We jumped in with Sixth Sense, and we rolled out first. At first, we just started off with the enterprise platform, and we didn't have any predictive models. And then in 2020, we piloted a predictive model for our flagship product, our ERP solution. And we said, let's test this out and see how it goes. And I would say we started off with moderate success from a sales adoption standpoint. Like any new technology, some sales reps dove right in and loved to tinker in the tool, and others were kind of technology reluctant. And I've been doing this way for my way for a lot of years. I don't need this new tool. And I would say that we had some adoption issues. So it wasn't super smooth right out of the gate. And I would say it was marketing driving the charge. And we had this shiny new tool for sales, right? And isn't this great? Sales is going to love it. And we gave it to them, and it fell flat a little bit. And we were left scratching our heads at first, like, why shouldn't they love this? Why don't they want this? And what it took was we actually ended up hiring in a new chief revenue officer. Coincidentally, that chief revenue officer had used Sixth Sense already at a previous position and came in and kind of set the stage and said, no, I love that we already have Sixth Sense in place. And it flipped the stage from a push to a pull. Instead of marketing pushing this new tool at sales, sales was pulling it along, saying, what more Sixth Sense information can you give us? And the message behind that really is you need sales buy-in out of the gate. You need to have the sales leadership on board when you roll out a new ABM solution, so that they're pulling that solution forward and pushing the envelope in terms of what it can do for us and how we utilize it. So it wasn't the success wasn't immediate. But then people started to really see the results in it in the ERP solution. And we went from having one predictive model. Today we have 5 predictive models. So we rolled out Sixth Sense additional models for some of our additional products. And the main tools that we use on a day-to-day basis include sales alerts. So all of the sales team and BDEs get alerts into their inbox on a daily basis. And everybody's using customized dashboards to see their territory and track intent in their territories. So we use lots of other things, but from a sales force deployment standpoint, those are the main tools that we're using day to day.
Awesome. Thanks, Nancy. Nate, you want to tell a little bit about your journey to getting Sixth Sense onboarded?
Yeah. So we started with Sixth Sense in early 2022. So we're about 2.5 years in here. And prior to that, we started leveraging intent in our go-to-market strategies, and we had success. And we were doing really well with the partners that we had, but we still had that age-old question of sales and marketing alignment. How do we bring sales and marketing together? What are you putting out? Who accounts are you targeting? And what is our go-to-market strategy? And then certainly on our end, what was sales doing on the back end? So we got to a point where we started looking for companies that could answer, understand what accounts are in market, because we have a longer sales cycle. We have a very niche service that we provide, and so offering insights there, and then allowing us to target those accounts on the marketing side with the right message at the right time to the right person. But most importantly, having that be visible and consolidated in a single location to really have sales carry that message through into their sales funnel. And so we really wanted to we open it up, and we wanted to select a company that would partner in that area that would answer those questions. And Sixth Sense, of course, was that company that we selected. So with our rollout, we started our rollout in, we kind of have a motto here at Service Express: start small and scale quickly. And so really we lived in there for the first 120 days, building out the taxonomy. So big credit to the team, and I'll give a shout out to my team and our revenue operations team that built that taxonomy out, because we wanted to test that out. And then the next 9 months, for the rest of that year after that 120 days, we rolled it out to our sales development team and then a select few sellers that were on our sales advisory board, with the idea of, all right, we know the data works, we know that the products works. We wanted to test it with our sales development team, say, all right, we're converting on these leads, we're shortening our sales cycle, the data is legitimate and useful. But then on the sales side, building those, the intentionality of building those adopters, those advocates, and really having that voice. So it wasn't just marketing saying, hey, use this tool. It was collaborative approach on that rollout strategy. And then year 2 was the full rollout to sales. So everybody in the organization, we did a rollout was very strategic in that. So that way they had multiple resources, both internally at Service Express as well as 6 Sense resources that would really, really boost adoption and bring that that usage home.
Awesome. Some great nuggets there, and we got some questions flying in the chat, which is great to see. But I think for one of the things I saw is it fell flat, Nancy, at first, and there wasn't sales buy-in. And a lot of the questions, we will answer these questions about how did they establish buy-in here in the following questions. But that kind of leads really naturally to the next topic. And maybe Nate, you can lead us off here. But what specific challenges did you experience with sales, or maybe in general, when adopting or moving to an account-based approach? And then what were some of the things you did to overcome those challenges as well?
Yeah, and that's a great question. Rolling out 6 Sense, it's a very robust tool. There's a lot of information, a lot of data points, and it's providing that real life information on what accounts are doing. And so really what we wanted to do in that, when we did the rollout, was really trying to start simple and guiding sellers of what this tool was, recognizing that this is a tool. We had a lot of tools at Service Express already for our sellers. And so really just emphasizing that this was a tool in their tool chest that they could use. It wasn't going to be the only tool, but it worked really well in conjunction with the other tool in prioritizing the accounts that were in market. And so, rolling that out and having that messaging, top down was really key, because I think a lot of times you can go into, a new tool, and as soon as you find something that's wrong, you're like, oh, this doesn't work, right? And so that continued education element was really, evident in the beginning. That led to, the adoption of the account-based strategy. I always say frequently, 6 Sense data does not give you necessarily what you want, but more or less what you need, because of all the data points that it is aggregating into a singular location. And so, that was the big hurdle to overcome. And as we went through the rollout, administrative work or entering things into Salesforce was another hurdle, because we would start to run programs and prioritize accounts and put marketing behind them, and we would go back and we'd do these rollouts, and we'd get messages from our sales org of, oh, I already had a meeting with them, or I already had this. And it was making sure that those things were logged, so we knew what the data was telling us, and it was accurate. So those were the two big ones that we recognized in overcoming those. I make the joke, and I steal the joke from Josh Leatherman, our CMO, but we put our CRO hat on, but our CRO hat is Chief Reminding Officer. So we're constantly reminding people to use the tool, leverage the data, provide us feedback, and have this full circle, because we're not in the field, and so we don't. Without feedback, you really don't, know if what is working, what tweaks are, And the more you use the tool, the more it's going to learn, the better it's going to get. So that's really kind of one of those things where it's not a set it and forget it tool by any stretch of the imagination. So you kind of you try to remind and be that CRO or our CRO, in a different sense. But that's without being annoying, but trying to demonstrate that value, right? And the longer you go and the longer you use it, the more value you're going to find value in using the tool. So that was one of those things of, sometimes it can be a little bit defeating, but you keep going back to it because you trust the process. It's going to work.
That's great, Chief Reminding Officer. I'm going to steal that one. And Nancy, what about from your side?
Yeah, I agree with everything Nate said, so I try not to repeat any of his points, but it was, you have to set the stage when you roll out something like this. 6 Cents at the end of the day is a prioritization tool. You've got hundreds of leads to follow up on. It's a tool that can help you know where to start and which accounts to start with by accounts that are showing the most intent at a macro level. Not one lead coming in with a lead score, right? You're getting feedback from the entire account. So you may have a large account with one lead that's showing intent versus 6 Cents will tell you that across the board at a macro level, this account is showing intent. But then where the sales reps get hung up sometimes is, well, okay, that's great. I know this account is showing intent, but who do I call? If we don't already have our Salesforce solution loaded with contacts from that, where do I start? So again, that comes back to, like Nate said, sales teams today have so many tools at their disposal. You have to triangulate a little bit. So we encourage them to use 6 Cents in conjunction with LinkedIn Sales Navigator to now search for that account. You might know that an anonymous individual from Austin, Texas was on your website this morning. Well, if you go into LinkedIn and looked up that company in Austin, Texas, pretty good chance you might be able to make a match to figure out who that person was. And then you can use your various tools like LinkedIn and Outreach and all the things to be able to reach out to those individuals. So we did have some issues of the sales team expecting this tool to serve everything up on a silver platter and setting the stage that, well, wait a second, yes, it's going to show us some intent, but you're still going to have to do some work down the line to identify the right people to get in contact with. So it's a tool in your arsenal to help you prioritize, but be prepared to still roll up your sleeves and do the necessary due diligence at an account level to reach out to those account teams and know who you need to speak with.
That's great. And what I heard there, and I'm a seller, so I can say this, but us sales folks sometimes expect everything on a silver platter for us. So I think the theme of a couple of the themes I took away there is setting the stage. So like set the stage and set the foundations, remind and explain. And if you can set the foundations there, it sounds like that was how Nate, Nancy, you were able to overcome some of the objections to get the launch deployed and see success. And so the next question, Nancy, I'll pass it to you, and I'll weave in some of the questions from the Q&A. But how do you sell your sales leader? One of the questions was like, how would you have gained buy-in if you did not change CROs, Nancy? So as you're thinking about like how Nate and Nancy, how do you really sell them on the value of this approach? And any tactics or strategies or something like a learning from what you did that was successful would be great to hear. So Nancy, maybe I'll kick it to you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I'm going to throw out a funny example. We actually used the tool to work in reverse a little bit to sell the sales team. So when adoption was struggling, the sales team's continuing to go sell. They're doing everything by their traditional methods. We've got this great tool and they're not using it. And we started to run some reports and find out that 6 Cents really was working. They weren't using the tool, but if we showed the sales reps that if you go back and look at the opportunities that you closed in the last 60 days, guess what? Every single one of them was in decision and purchase. So you didn't use the tool, but the tool was right, which gave them the message that you can trust it. It was accurately predicting which opportunities were going to close, even though they weren't using it, which then gave them some faith in the solution. Like, okay, I didn't use it, but it really did know, which the 6 Cents was right. Which kind of gave them the faith in the solution to go back and say, okay, maybe there's something to this, and I should be looking for accounts that are in decision and purchase because they really are more likely to close. So we kind of went backdoor, and it really did reinforce faith in the accuracy of the solution with the team, and I think that helped a lot. We also did a lot of we scheduled time with marketers to sit down one-on-one with every sales rep and help them build their custom dashboard to get it the way that so that their customized dashboard was properly set to their territory. We, at any point in time, any sales rep can put a one-on-one on my calendar, and I'll spend 15-20 minutes helping them tweak their dashboard or showing them what the information means. We really did some hand-holding at the beginning to set them up for success. Train, and show them how to use the tool. Don't just record a webinar and push it out and say, everybody go listen to this webinar and set up your dashboard. They're not going to do it. They're just not. So we did some hand-holding out of the gate. Every sales rep in BDE gets alerts into their inbox daily. So it takes some time, but once you lay that groundwork, it can really be successful for the team.
That's great. Anything, Nate, you'd add?
Yeah, I think, not to be repetitive, but, buy-in from the top down. We were fortunate. My very first call with 6 Sense was with our CMO and CRO in conjunction. And, I didn't know it at the time, but that was extremely valuable to have that, because concepts were at least able to be explained, and buy-in was able to be had of, like, even if it wasn't 6 Sense, we need something like this to create and generate alignment. And so, as we had our journey and opened up our RFP inclusion along the way, and tapping into the business needs, but also the sales needs, the marketing needs, and determining which vendor will align best with those to achieve those. That way, when you come around and you make a selection, you go back to those points that you've saved and say, this is what this is going to do for us as an organization. So that was the big recommendation that I would have, that we intentionally, unintentionally did and achieved and had that as we rolled it out. But then understanding and working to build that advocacy as well within our sellers, our current sellers, was huge. Again, I referenced it earlier, but marketing telling sales what to do or how to use or what tool they should use can fall on deaf ears, or just be not taken seriously. But having a seller use real life sales examples on how they're using the tool and maximizing their time and their prioritization in that area was key, right? Because then it's we always, after when we launched it, and I got sick of the acronym, so this will be the last time I use it, I promise. But it's with them. What's in it for me is answering that question when you roll it out to sales. That's a reality. If you're going to introduce something to sales, all salespeople, everybody's busy, but salespeople are busy in trying to close deals. So if you're going to introduce something, there has to be something that's going to benefit them in their cycle. So, and last and certainly not least is just, again, as I live true to being a chief reminding officer, be that chief reminding officer.
Yeah, and yeah, some of my takeaways there when you're selling this approach to sales, and how do you overcome objections? Nancy, backdoor with the results. It's what we've seen a lot of folks, show them the results, and you're not tricking them, you're just showing them, because you can backdate test everything and look at, hey, if you had worked these opportunities or the ones you did, like, hey, you could have worked them earlier, and there's a lot more out there that you could be working. Top-down alignment, Nate, you hit on this one. I think it's earlier the better. I totally agree. There, you have to be speaking. We say here, you have to be operating on the same sheet of music, and I think that that's so critically important. Or else, whether you're looking to make an investment, or you've already made an investment, or you're just looking to adjust an approach, I think the top-down alignment is going to be critical to hold the mutual parties accountable. And then the last one was advocacy within sales. This, personally, I get asked when I talk to CROs and CMOs all day, they ask this question, like, how do we make sure sellers actually use this? And so I think finding advocates within your internal sales org, whoever's in charge of creating pipeline, it's going to be critical that you find a few, individuals that you can really buddy up with, and show them the money. Be able to show them where the money lies. And if you adopt this, use the backdoor data that Nancy was talking about. And one of the concepts I'm sure a lot of folks are familiar with, your sales teams probably are always looking for this, is finding a mobilizer in your deals. Well, I tell marketers and sales leaders who are looking to roll out something like 6sense or another technology, is find your internal mobilizer. So who's going to be the one who generates the most pipeline? The peers are going to follow. There's a lot of respect amongst them, and pull them aside and ask them for their support to help get this off the ground and running. And if you find an internal mobilizer that's going to help you on your team, I think there'll be tons of a path to, lots of success. So let's lead into the next question. And there were some questions around benchmarks and justifying like an investment or a continued investment. So Nate, maybe I'll start with you. Can you talk a little bit about in what ways did you collaborate with sales to like drive a successful outcome, and talk maybe about the benchmarks that were set, the outcomes that you were measuring against, and how you got alignment around that topic?
Yeah, and first, Mac, I haven't heard a Jerry Maguire reference in some time, so thank you. You've made my day. With that, I think the biggest thing is understanding and utilizing the stage in 6sense. We rolled this out, and we asked that they prioritize when we're setting meetings, when we start interacting with accounts, what stage were they at, and then tracking the progressions to creating opportunity, and then tracking that, that velocity. 6sense has the capability to timestamp and leverage that sort of data. And, I think I saw a question in the chat is, the easiest way to get adoption is to say you're going to shorten velocity. And we've been able to have that. We've cut velocity times in half by leveraging and utilizing that. It's not to say that the other stages won't close, or they're bad accounts, or they're bad leads, or anything along those lines. But from a prioritization standpoint, just knowing the amount that they're, the time that they're closing, and then of course, getting multi-threaded in there with the data and interacting with more people, you get more buy-in, and that leverages, in our case, 2 to sometimes 3 times the deal size than what we were expecting, or what we had historically, right? So I think as I mentioned, we're 2.5 years in. You have historical benchmarks, and obviously there's seasonalities, and we were talking about the pandemic and different things that would affect that. But I think you have seasonalities, and you have different things that you can compare that to historically to prove the efficacy of the tool.
Awesome. Nancy, anything you'd add on top?
Yeah, as I said, we started with one predictive model for our flagship solution, our ERP solution, to test it out and test the waters. And as it started to bear fruit, and we sell into multiple different value segments, and the other sales teams that sell the other products started saying, hey, wait a second, they've got that tool over here. When are we going to get that? Which led us down a path of rolling it out to additional products. And we now have 5 predictive models in place. So once the sales team begins to see results in a solution, and you can prove that to them, whether it's through their own anecdotal stories of 6sense helped me find this deal, or, hey, look, those deals you closed, 6sense was accurate about all of them. That's when you get from that push to pull strategy. Instead of marketing pushing this solution at sales and saying, look at this tool we have for you, sales starts to say, hey, wait, when can I get that? Hey, wait, how do I start using that? And that pull strategy, when sales starts to pull the solution instead of marketing pushing it at them, it's a game changer. It changes everything. And then sales starts to drive the bus and wanting that solution. And when that happens, when that turn happens and sales is starting to drive that bus, that's when you kind of know you've hit the nail on the head. It changes everything.
That's great. Now, I said I may go off script, Nancy and Nate. So here's where I'm going off script. But I'm seeing a common theme in the Q&A and the chat, and it's kind of like diving deeper onto this most recent topic. But maybe if you could dive a little bit deeper into the tracking and measuring, and specifically, like what metrics are you absolutely tracking to measure the impact of this type of a shift? And then what's your cadence of showcasing this and the results to marketing and sales leadership? There were a couple questions on that thread.
Mm-hmm. I can dive in there. 6sense offers some great reporting right out of the box. There's some deal velocity reporting. There's reporting regarding profile fit. So, SixSense measures the company's profile fit as well as their intent. So we started relying immediately right on the out of the box 6sense reports. We didn't create anything crazy from a reporting standpoint. I will say we had to work through some nuances and some customized dashboards when we got into multi models. But if you've only got one model, all of the out of the box reporting works just great. When we got into having 5 models, it got a little bit more complicated because there might be a company that's a good profile fit for one product, but not a great profile fit for another product. And so there were some nuances when we got into multi-model, but from a one model standpoint, the 6sense out of the box reporting really does kind of serve up what you need to be able to report to management about deal velocity and the increase in sales based upon accounts that the tool was able to influence. It's pretty much served up for you.
Yeah, and I would share the same sentiment as Nancy. We have one model, and so we were able to use that reporting solution. But then, on the other side, we work very closely with our revenue operations team as well, and we meticulously track, meeting set, meeting held, op creation, and then where that goes throughout the journey, and report back on a monthly basis. It does a couple of things for us. Obviously, gets buy-in, for the tool in it, but it most importantly adds validity to this, so that way we can turn around and share the findings to get buy-in for those that maybe don't think that it's working or wouldn't work.
Yeah. And then in terms of a cadence, is there any sort of a monthly report that you send out? Is there QBRs you host with your sales leader counterparts? I'd love to understand, how do you not just report on the data, but then showcase the data and the impact?
For us, a lot of it is, I would love to. This is a takeaway for me, right? I'm gonna go roll into to think about how I can make a monthly cadence or a quarterly or whatever of showcasing this data, because we don't operate that way. It's almost daily, if that makes sense. Like, it's, again, as Nate said, this is not a set it and forget it. You don't just install 6sense and then let it run and everybody's in this happy world. We monitor it all the time, in a good way. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's not like you just set it up and let it roll. But it's not. And let me back up on that, because again, we're off script. I'm talking on the fly. There's the initial rollout of where we did the hand holding to build the dashboards. That's not the kind of babysitting that I'm talking about. Now that it's rolling, we're reviewing the numbers and tweaking segmentations and looking at the go-to-market segmentations that we created and looking for trends there. So the babysitting we're doing now is in the data, not in the rollout, right? But yeah, we look at it all the time. But like I said, my takeaway from here is, maybe there's some monthly roll-up that I could be doing to take my game to the next level.
Love it. Love live takeaways. Nate, anything you'd add on the cadence?
Yeah, we do it monthly, and like I said, we kind of go on the other side. We don't throw necessarily all the time. Maybe that's my takeaway as well as Nancy's. It's what we see from the 6sense reporting. We don't do that all the time, but we do share that, and we do see the value. We lean into the sales language, like I said, with the op tracking and meeting set and things along those lines. I think the bigger thing was just integrating them into our processes of, if you're doing a deal review or something along those lines, to where it's just, it's a checkpoint and it's valuable to have. So it's that element of utilizing the tool, and not necessarily to a point where you're throwing stats in their face of, you need to use this because of this, right? I'll probably pick up on that and share that a little bit more, but I think that's really we use it all the time. We use the data all the time to make tweaks to it, and then we rely on the outputs and the results to control the rest.
Awesome. Well, I think we have time for one more question, and one of the threads, and again, off script here, but Nancy and Nate, you Great. Is we're talking a lot about new business, but have either of you seen success in leveraging 6sense for cross-sell, upsell, maybe churn mitigation, renewal type of things? Have you leveraged or anything that the team's doing there?
We have. So we, one of our power users was an account manager, and so just one of the practices was using it for prior to a QBR with a customer, and leveraging insights and just asking roundabout questions of, oh, do you have this, and this, and it's like, oh yeah, actually I didn't think of that, or I didn't know you guys provided that service, or something along those lines. And so we've had to practice it. We had to go to the drawing board a little bit, because it is different on the customer and account management side versus the new business side. There are different nuances, but it's not entirely new. It's not like we're a new model or a new tool. It's just using it and leveraging it in different ways. And so that's where you track it for intent that's surging, whether it be a competitor or a keyword trend or something that in your market might be taking off. So that's how we've leveraged it and had the expectation that both of them use it, but you just use it differently.
Mm-hmm. We are not currently using it for churn. We do have a customer success team. At this stage, our customer success team does not have 6sense licenses, so we're not using it in that capacity. Cross-sell, definitely. We have our 6sense is integrated into Marketo as well as Salesforce. We have segmentation set up that are looking for current customers showing intent in our other products. And we have nurture campaigns in Marketo set up for those other products for cross-sell. So we have cross-sell messaging Marketo campaigns. And if a current customer shows interest in a different product, they get dropped into the Marketo campaign where they start to receive a nurture campaign. And all of that's automated and set up and just running. So we have 6sense feeding individuals into our Marketo nurture campaigns on the daily. There are orchestrations that run on a nightly basis, adding people automatically to Marketo nurture campaigns. And some of those are specifically cross-sell. So cross-sell, we are definitely using it. We are not within customer success, but that's another place that we would like to get to.
Yep. And I'll add one that we use internally here that specifically around renewal, and then the churn mitigation challenge that I think is top of mind for everyone in the market right now. But we set up, and Nate hit on this a little bit, when we set up competitive segments within 6sense, and whenever we see an increase in competitive research, we have alerts go out to the account manager, the CSM, and leadership across, and we set it up for all renewals, but we have them in cohorts of when their renewal date is. So, and we have different plays and strategies to approach that. And if it's renewals up in 3 months, that cohort, and we see a spike in competitive research, that becomes kind of a glaring red for us. And then we have our plays to kind of, surround that team and make sure that, hey, we're getting ahead of it. And it's helped us save multiple renewals where we got ahead of them going down a path with a competitor and kind of nipped it in the bud. So a lot there. I saw a lot of questions around that. But I do believe we are at time. So a couple of quick reminders. Number one, thank you to Nancy and Nate. Words of wisdom, CRO. I'm stealing that, Nate. Thank you very much. And appreciate all the insights. Hopefully the audience has a lot to take away. And then to the audience, thank you so much for the active engagement. And 2 final reminders. Number 1, we'll be sending the recording out, so you'll be able to have access to that. Number 2, definitely tune in to the next session in early September, and hopefully you can join for that. But thanks again, everyone. Appreciate all the time, and we'll chat soon.